Hey everyone, it's been a while. Again. Today I'd like to make a more laid-back video to get back into the video making groove. I, like so many others, have been playing video games for my entire life. And recently I've been looking back at what video games I've played the most. And it quickly turned out that there's no way I could ever track that. For example, I've spent ridiculous amounts of times playing LAPD Future Cop on PS1, but I have no idea how long exactly. I was like 5. What I can do, however, is use Steam, How Long to Beat, and my own estimations to narrow down at least PC games. I'll try to limit myself to not talk about any game for that long, so we don't get that mess of a video again, but I can't promise anything. And instead focus more on what caused me to spend so much time on them. Please note that these are not my favorite games of all time. There are lots of games that I love much more than the stuff I'm going to talk about in this list, but they just don't require that kind of time commitment. Who knows, maybe I'll make a separate list in the future about my favorite games, and hey, maybe you'll find a game that you haven't heard of yet that you'd like to try on my list. Most of you probably know me as a horror game guy, but honestly, horror is just a tiny fraction of games that I like. So let's get started. Number 10. Team Fortress 2. 175 hours. To be honest, I've probably played TF2 for well longer than 175 hours, because I used to play the shitty PS3 version that came with the orange box back then. I don't think that version was ever updated. It had all the basic classes, no heads or unlockables, and all the bugs that were long patched in the Steam version were still not patched on the PS3 years later. All the classes make it so easy to have fun with this game. Tired of spy? Play soldier. Tired of soldier? Play medic, until you have played all the classes and then you can start playing with the spy again. Yeah, sure, you can main a certain class, but you can never be certain that you will be able to actually play that class, or if it will make sense for the team composition of that particular game. Of course, a lot of people don't give a shit and just play the stuff they like, and then they'll lose. Backstabbing, headshotting, blowing up enemies, it's all perfectly executed and is so damn satisfying. Nothing beats that feeling of taking your enemy's final checkpoint with a perfectly timed übercharge. This game honestly has it all. Fun, quirky classes, fun maps and game modes, user-created content and customization, and all in all, it's just a very enjoyable experience, and I still jump onto it from time to time today. These days, people seem to praise Valorant or Overwatch. I've tried Overwatch, but to me, it just doesn't capture that feeling that Team Fortress 2 once did. Number 9. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. About 180 hours. To be fair, there isn't that much content in this game to justify playing for 180 hours, but I've played this game so damn often over the years. I've made all possible characters, done all the side quests multiple times, made every possible decision you can make in this game.
Mucho shakapaka.
I just love it that much. I also much prefer it over Kotor 2 for its storyline and characters. The character interactions are what makes this game legendary. To this day, I still remember every single character's name, their backstory, and what they contribute to the party. It is that memorable.
Extrapolation. You are no farmer or diplomat. You are armed and comfortable as such. We will mesh well.
Generally speaking, Kotor is the proto-Mass Effect. Both were developed by BioWare, and you can still see the similarities. And from a technical, scale and story standpoint, Mass Effect is certainly the better game, and don't get me wrong, I adore Mass Effect 2. I just haven't played it as much. While Mass Effect has the more interesting story in my opinion, nothing beats making a way through the sandy dunes of Tatooine while being attacked by sand people. There are a lot of force powers and decisions to make, and each of them kind of feel impactful in a way. BioWare managed to make the Old Republic feel like a breathing, living world even back then. The story is still very Star Wars-y, but does feel a little bit darker in some places. You might be forced to do things you don't want to do, like on Korriban for example. But if you haven't played this game and don't know the story, do yourself a favor and don't spoil yourself. I don't want to give away anything, so just trust me on this one. Number 8.
Hello, LA. You're up way past your bedtime, aren't you? Hope you've slipped into something comfortable. I know I have. If you're new to town or just new to this whole radio thing, you're listening to The Deb of Night, the only girl who will spend the night with you and leave first thing in the morning, guaranteed.
Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. About 200 hours. This game is one of my favorite games of all time. The atmosphere, the vampire clans, the characters and character interactions, the music, it's all just so perfect. There are deeply rooted politics and religious beliefs in these games that have an incredible internal consistency. It really feels like you're joining this old underground community that's long established. There have been a lot of World of Darkness games released in the past couple of years, but they're all just so mediocre that it pains my fanboy soul. And with VTMB 2 under a bad star, I highly doubt we will ever reach this kind of peak in a World of Darkness game ever again. But hey, I'm ready to be proven wrong. In fact, I'd love to be proven wrong. I must have finished this game 10 times or so and played so many full conversion mods. I just wish there was more of it. And you know what? No, I can't talk about this game for such a little amount of time. This game deserves its own full hour-long video in the future. Number 7.
Welcome to us.
Osu. 250 hours. So unless you were following me on Twitch back in 2015, I doubt any of you saw this coming. I used to be a hardcore Osu player back in the day, streaming until like 4 in the morning. And this game is still my favorite rhythm game out there. I've made friends through that game that I still talk to today. For those of you that don't know, Osu is a rhythm game where a ring approaches a circle and it's your task to click the circle when the ring touches the edge of the circle.
Hello and welcome to Oath. Let's learn how to play.
And that's it. Sounds simple enough, right?
The big black.
See, while it's fine for the easiest maps in the game to actually click on the circles, once you get better in the game, you will notice that clicking and moving your mouse around just doesn't cut it anymore. You will have to use your keyboard to click to make it to the next ring in time. Most players end up using a graphics tablet to move the cursor in order to have a better control over their movement. And what I love about this game is how open it is. All the beat maps in this game are user created, and there are so many players out there that there are thousands upon thousands of great beat maps and songs to play. You can also easily create a custom skin or download other skins to make the game look just how you want it to look. And if you get tired of the normal game mode, there are many mods that spice up the gameplay and give you more points. Or 3 other completely different game modes to play in Taiko, Catch the Beat, and Osumania. This game rewards being absolutely flawless, which means you will have to play certain maps you want to be perfect in over and over and over again until you make it if you want to maximize your points. But the feeling when you finally get that perfect run is hard to describe.
Shit!
There are even World Cup tournaments in any of the game modes, and it's always a treat to see these top players compete.
A rough set of breaks for Germany. Map is not quite over yet. A very, very slight score lead.
If you like rhythm games, then, well, you probably know about Osu already. And if you don't like rhythm games, try Osu. You may just fall in love with this genre.
See you next time.
Number 6. Football Manager 2019. 260 hours. 570 hours in the franchise. I honestly could have included the 2021 edition of this game instead of the 2019 edition, but I figured I'd keep it to one game of franchise. Plus, these games don't really differ that drastically from each other. To keep it relatively short, I just love management games. There's something deeply satisfying about managing a club or a team and helping it to rise to the top, to create an empire of sorts. And Sega's Football Manager is one of the most in-depth management games I know. I don't want to get too deeply into the nitty-gritty of it, but you have the choice to take control of as much or as little of what goes into managing a football club as you want. And it goes into incredible detail, right down to individual training plans of specific players, those players' relationships to you and the rest of the team, and what kind of people they are. Like, are they lazy? Are they hardworking? And then there's scouting players, contract negotiations, and tactics in ridiculous amounts of detail. And all of this is rounded off with an okay 3D match engine to see the result of your hard work in real time on the field. And once you are on the field, you still get to make a lot of in-depth tactical decisions, yelling at your players to press harder and stuff. For a football fan, this game is just a dream. But being a fan of managing games, I also have my eye on the upcoming Formula 1 Manager game. That game just looks incredible. And I'm sure when it comes out, my playtime there will rival Football Manager in the future. Number 5. Warhammer 40k, Dawn of War. And Age of Empires 2. Both probably around 350 hours. Okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit with number 5. And it's mostly because I really can't track the time I've spent with either of these games. Because I played them way before Steam in elementary school. If I had to guess, I probably played Age of Empires 2 slightly longer, and it's also probably the better game. But either way, both of these are amazing real-time strategy games for similar reasons, aside from the fact that their settings differ a lot. They both have quite a few different civilizations to choose from, and in-depth tactics with unit compositions. With all the expansions, Age of Empires 2 has like 40 different civilizations to choose from now. And that's just astonishing. I always love to play as the Chinese. Killing a bunch of enemies with a flurry of Chukonus just feels amazing. But overall, Age of Empires 2 civilizations don't really differ that much visually or gameplay-wise. On the other hand, with all expansions, Dawn of War only has 9 races that you can play, but they're all drastically different from one another. Both games have fun campaign modes and a slew of mods and maps to keep players occupied for a long time. These are 2 games I've played with friends extensively for years and years, and still do from time to time. If I had to pick one of the 2, I'd probably pick Age of Empires 2. Just for the definitive edition and the fact that it still gets updates even to this day, and it's also probably the better game. If it comes to RTS games, I will probably forever compare them to either of these games in my head. But there's also one other RTS game that I'd like to add here that I've probably played a similar amount of time in, but that doesn't fit with the rest of the two. Number 5. Again.
The keep is enclosed.
Stronghold Crusader. Also probably around 350 hours. So yeah, I'm cheating here a little bit, but it's my list, so whatever. And Stronghold Crusader just deserves it. Stronghold Crusader is the sequel to Stronghold, a slightly worse game. Crusader is very, very different from all the other RTS I know. And it has a nice balance between city building and war, and it's honestly still very pretty. I'm serious, there's even a game mode that focuses entirely on just building a pretty castle.
Choose your adversary.
There are lots of different and fun, although exploitable, AI opponents. So you need money to buy stuff, right? So you raise taxes. But now your people are unhappy and will leave you until nobody can work anymore. So what do? You could either balance their unhappiness over taxes with pretty gardens and leisure activities, but that in turn will decrease their productivity, and they will sometimes just sit and watch that stupid bear dance for literal months. You could also give them a variety of different foods to keep them happy. But of course that means you have to use more of the limited fertile space you have for food. Or you can just give them alcohol to make them happy. And on top of all that, you have to build a castle and raise an army quickly before you get attacked by the pig again.
A message from the rat.
You impudent upstart! I shall take great delight in dispatching you myself.
See what I mean? The resource management is so much more in-depth than most RTS I know, and there are so many decisions to make, on top of very charming AI opponents that constantly talk to you. This game is still, to this day, so much fun, and a small but dedicated group of people are still creating mods for it.
Wood needed.
Sadly, this game doesn't get much attention anymore, and Firefly Studios was never able to catch that lightning in a bottle again. But they tried. Oh, did they try. Again, again, and again. Number 4. Counter-Strike Source. 745 hours. I don't think I have to talk a lot about CSS anymore. Everyone knows what it is and why it's fun. But I was not that big of a fan of this game, to be honest with you. I actually don't even fully remember playing this game for that long, and I'm still baffled every time I look at my Steam playtimes. I'm actually not joking. I have no idea why I have so many hours in this game. Okay, I did like to play a lot of D-Train only servers, and I must have put about 200 hours or something into surf maps because they're just so incredibly chill with music. But 745 hours? That's almost 32 days of continuous 24/7 gaming. I have no explanation for this. It's like I've repressed memories of Counter-Strike Source somewhere deep in hidden crevices of my mind. I can, for the life of me, not remember where all these hours are from. Maybe it's best we move on to the podium. Number 3. Dead by Daylight. 750 hours. This is another one of those online games, but at least this time I can recall playing this game for 750 hours. Dead by Daylight is an asymmetrical horror survival game in which one player takes the role of one of 27 killers and 4 others take the role of survivors. The killer has to hit a survivor 2 times for them to go down, and then hook them 3 times to kill them. And the survivors have to repair 5 generators, then open the exit gates and leave. Simple enough. But the complexity comes with the amount of killers, maps, and perks this game has. And there are over 200 perks to choose from for killer and survivors. Granted, only few are objectively the best perks in the current meta, but the point still stands. There are tons of different builds to try and killers to master. And if you have a group of friends, you can team up to try and survive against the killer. I think a lot of the draw from this game comes from the interesting killers this game has. See, while they do have a good amount of interesting original killers, they also have tons of licensed killers too. You get Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Pinhead, Nemesis, fucking Pyramid Head, and so many more. And all of the killers have a unique power. And no matter if you play as killer or survivor, you will probably end up learning all of them. And that's not all. Powers can also be modified with add-ons, and survivors have the opportunity to take helpful items into the trial that gives them better chances to escape. I think you can see how this game can get complex very fast. It has a very high skill ceiling, and people spend thousands and thousands of hours perfecting their playstyle. The maps are very pretty too, but not all of them are very fun to play in. Honestly, who the hell thought putting the RPD into this game 1-to-1 was a smart idea? The game gets new killers and updates constantly, but Behavior, the developers of this game, are notorious for their horrible updates and laziness. But to be fair, they have gotten a lot better recently. This is one of those games you will probably hate more the more you play it. It is kind of like if the Friday the 13th game didn't have only Jason and actually succeeded. Although personally, I feel like Friday's gameplay was a little bit more engaging than DBD. While you can really feel the horror as a survivor for the first few hours of the game, it eventually wears off. But it can be incredibly stressful and frustrating for killers. Either way, I still enjoy to play this game every so often for a game or two. Which is why it's my number 3. Number 2. Rocket League, 2,300 hours. Oof. What a jump in hours. But I just can't help myself. I fucking love Rocket League. Honestly, I think this is my favorite competitive game. 1 ball and 2 to 8 players depending on your game mode, and rocket-powered cars that try to score goals like in football. The most popular game mode, and the one that is played competitively, is played 3v3, and it's the one I play the most too. But I've also must have played at least 1,000 hours of 2v2s too with my best friend. And winning a clutch game together is just the best feeling in the world. There are some extra modes and in-game tournaments. You can create teams or have other people join your team and customize your team's colors. Customization is honestly such a big deal in Rocket League. You can change almost every aspect of your car, and even have special theme songs for when you score. And all the microtransactions in this game are just cosmetics. None of this matters. None of this makes your car faster or anything. It is just cosmetics. You can pick up this game right now for free and go play. There's no map advantage, no car is faster than any other car. If you win a game of Rocket League, you are probably just the more skilled team. Or hey, maybe you just got lucky with a well-timed pinch and then defended your goal like your life depended on it. All the emotions from football and the mechanics of an arcade driving game mixed in with actual consistent physics make this the perfect competitive game for me. It's fun to play and it's fun to watch. I don't care about your CSGO or League of Legends tournaments, Rocket League is the perfect esport to me. Save for sim racing maybe. It is so easy to get into, but so incredibly difficult to master. The skill ceiling is through the fucking roof, and you will have to spend hundreds and thousands of hours of rage and bliss to get good at this game. And the developers know this too, and actually give you rewards each season for the rank you manage to reach. And you know what? I don't regret a single hour spent with this game. Now, before I get to my number 1 played game, I'd like to add some honorable mentions. These games are amazing, but they are probably around the 11 to 20s in my most played list. But I still love them, and I feel like they deserve to be mentioned, and who knows when I'll get the chance again. Remember, these aren't my favorite games, these are just my most played games. Garry's Mod, 160 hours. Do I really have to say any more about it? Garry's Mod.
Gary!
So what I personally like about Garry's Mod is exploring maps. I think exploring the imagination of other people is just incredible. It's so inspiring. Plus, Garry's Mod maps are really old and tend to have a certain feeling that I really enjoy. I talked a little bit more about this in my video, That Uneasiness in Non-Horror Video Games, if you're interested. I've also spent an embarrassing amount of time on this obscure parkour server. It's a little bit like surfing in CSS. I just love how this stuff flows. Turn your brain off, put on some chill step and just let the world around you be. It's therapeutic to some degree. FromSoft games, any of them, about 100 to 160 hours depending on the game. I adore From Software games. Some people have started making lists ranking their favorite From Software games, but honestly, I love them all. I'm serious, just pick any one, you really can't go wrong with them. If somebody held a gun to my head and threatened to kill me if I didn't tell them my favorite FromSoft game, I'd probably say Dark Souls 1. When I first played Dark Souls 1, I had never had such an experience before. It is amazing to play, and the interconnected maps will make you go, oh, every single time you discover a connection to an earlier area. From Software's bosses are fun, the combat is challenging and fun to master, there are tons of different builds to play as and ways to play, and the atmosphere and lore is legendary in every single game they make. Nothing more to say really, except go play From Software games and learn what it means when people say get good. Formula 1 2021, 160 hours, 290 hours in the series. I love driving sims. I love perfecting tracks, I love learning how the cars behave, and the satisfaction that comes with doing well in a race. But you know what else I really like? Driving sims with a proper career mode that lets you create a team. The Formula 1 games give me both of these things. While the F1 games are a lot more arcadey than say iRacing for example, it is just plain fun to build up your car slowly, recruit teammates, see roster changes, and eventually lead your team to the World Championship title. Or hey, maybe you really want to play as a driver and swap teams to further your career. Just turn all of the assists off and enjoy the ride. Now that I touched on some honorable mentions, let's get right into my number 1 played game on PC. Number 1. RuneScape. 2,800 hours. No, not this RuneScape. This RuneScape. I think any one of you who have played RuneScape at some point went, oh yeah, once you heard that music. RuneScape wasn't just another MMO. RuneScape was different. RuneScape was a lifestyle. Go to school, come home, play RuneScape, sleep. Every single day. On days off from school, it wasn't rare that I would play 10 hours a day. And honestly, I am a little bit embarrassed to say that today. I've kind of touched on this in the past, and it's that all this time that I could have gone outside or learned an actual skill, I just used to grind away, chopping virtual trees or something. RuneScape is grindy and it's made to be addictive. And it pains me to say it, but it's still actually pretty damn good. RuneScape 3 is what the game is now, and it's kind of meh. It honestly sucks a little bit because it feels like I've spent so much time on my character just for it to be wasted away because they changed the game to something I don't like now. Old school RuneScape is the one that I remember. Old school RuneScape is now maintained by a small team with pretty regular updates, but you have to start over, you can't use your RuneScape 3 character. The old combat system is incredibly simple on the outside, but players have found so much more ways to exploit the system than I would have ever expected. Like tick manipulation, for example. The split between the two games actually happened because of combat. The main game introduced a new combat system that most players hated, and well, now we have two separate games. Old school RuneScape itself is unlike any other MMO out there. Instead of single levels, combat levels are calculated from your skills. Each skill you can see here has different training methods, benefits, and things you can do to raise them, and things you can do with them. Do you know how in most MMOs, quests are just go kill something like 20 goblins or go fetch something? That shit is only one single skill in RuneScape. It's called Slayer. The quests in RuneScape are actual, fully fledged storylines interwoven into the world. A lot of the time you will need certain skill levels or other quests to access further quest lines. You start off baking a cake, and then you slowly work your way towards saving a prince or killing a dragon. With new training methods, both games have gotten a lot less grindy, especially RuneScape 3. And these days, everyone has optimized their skilling and money-making methods. The old school RuneScape graphics are still very primitive, but these days there are plenty of ways to make it look much nicer via RuneLite plugins. But honestly, playing RuneScape today, it just doesn't hit the same way anymore, you know? The clan I once created with like 50 active members is long dispersed, and everyone on my friend list has long moved on to other things. RuneScape wasn't just the game, it was the community. People sharing training methods, fighting in clan wars. I actually started my first videos ever in 2007 making RuneScape videos. RuneScape will always have a special place in my heart. There is a saying among RuneScape players: you don't quit the game, you only take breaks. And it's true to some extent. I have come back to the game every now and then, and hell, even got a month's worth of membership here and there. But my long days spent purely playing this game are long over. Honestly, looking at my friends list and recognizing names of people that I played back in the day, people that probably haven't logged into the game in years, and the memories just make me hope that these guys have an amazing life now. We were all in for the ride one day, but Eventually it was time to get off and grow up. Farewell, my old friends. Well, that was a lot more emotional than I expected it to be. There were probably some more games I could have mentioned, like Minecraft or The Elder Scrolls, but I think everyone knows those games and the video's long enough already anyway. So, what are your most played games? Do you know any of the games I mentioned, or have you found something new you might want to try at some point? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Thank you guys for watching my little video. I hope you liked this, and maybe I'll make more of this kind of videos, as it's a lot easier to produce than fully fledged reviews. I've had 3 or 4 scripts in the pipeline for months now, and couldn't really get into them much to convert them into videos. So I hope this is the one that gets me back into the video making game. Anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing day and enjoy the nice spring weather. Take care.